Welcome to 30-Minute Reviews. I am Adam. So one of the things that I really had to grapple with when I was trying to figure out where to put this is this a beware of spoilers episode, or is this a, what's it called? Or is this a 30-minute reviews episode? What I mean by that is, typically on 30-minute reviews, we discuss stuff that's new to streaming, stuff that's new to video games, new to movies, new to books, new to things like that. But it's infrequent when we cross that stuff over that, you can physically take home with you. It's infrequent that we cross that over to beware of spoilers. I think we've only done it like once, and that was for Kingdom Hearts 3. Only because I raced through that story, finished it quickly, reviewed it, and I didn't want to worry about spoiling for people who hadn't watched it yet. And really, that's the big issue, is that if it's something that I'm worried about spoilers for, or if it's something that I'm worried about, or something that's like drastically new release to the point where, if it's not new to streaming, like, how do I put this? If it's new to stream but also in theaters, it's going to go to beware of spoilers. If it's new to streaming but not in theaters, it's going to be on 30-minute reviews. So basically, what we have here is a movie that's going to be on streaming. You can pick it up on HBOMax, included with your subscription. I don't know why I should pick it up, but the movie is it's actually a documentary, Class Action Park, which is about Action Park in New Jersey. Now, I'm from New York. I'm from the tri-state area in New York. So Action Park is something that I'd heard of even before Johnny Knoxville did his thing of Jackass related to it. So like we had heard, I had heard of Action Park. It was kind of like, we have a few of them. We have like Adventureland, these kind of small local theme parks that are not entirely safe. When you talk to anyone around here who's older, or from New Jersey or from anything, it's like, if you refer to the Six Flags in Northern Jersey, it's always Great Adventure, they always call it. Because it was always Great Adventure until Six Flags bought it. Same thing with Great Escape upstate New York. People from the area, before it got bought, they always refer by the name now, just Six Flags Great Adventure. And it's kind of it's kind of similar in regard with this. This is something that if you're from the area, you're familiar with its existence. But if you weren't alive at the time, it's got this kind of mythological aspect to it, where it's kind of strange that something this unsafe was ever allowed to function for as long as it did. And I think that was one of the things that, with this documentary, I feel like it could have been longer, and I would have been okay with it being longer, because it was only an hour and a half long. Because here's the issue with this documentary, is that it kind of glosses over a lot of what happened at the park, in favor of making it look like, it was the 80s and the 70s, it's like, that's what we did. It's like, it still doesn't make it okay. Like, saying it was the 80s doesn't make it okay that it was this unsafe or anything like that. And kind of this weird, like, jarring tonal shift right toward the end of it, where it's like you have Alison Becker is one of the people who's speaking, and that name sounds familiar. It's because she played Shauna Malwae-Tweep on Parks and Recreation, because she's from the area, and she was alive at the time the park was open, and she had been there, and she was one who was talking about it. The other person, whose name I don't remember off the top of my head, if you watch The Office, in season 9, it turns out that Oscar is cheating on, or Angela's husband is cheating on her with Oscar. So she hires a hitman to break Oscar's kneecaps. And this guy comes in with a sandwich to to fake a delivery of a sandwich, and there's literally a pipe sticking out of the sandwich. That's the other guy they interviewed through the entire thing, and those are the only two people who aren't people who formerly worked at the park who were there. And really what happens through the entire documentary is they kind of go through what the park was in its heyday. And it's kind of like this retrospective of people who were like, oh, this is so cool, we loved it, they did X, Y, and Z, and I wish it was, it feels like, that's what it was like, and it was cool. It feels like, what was that skit from SNL where it's like, and we liked it. And that's what it feels like the entire way through. And it's like they describe the rides, and they describe how the rides go wrong, and how you can get hurt on the rides, and then what happens if you get hurt, and how many people got hurt, and all of that stuff. And then it very quickly gets very personal, and very painful to the viewer. And that's because you're watching this, and all of a sudden it cuts to the first death in the park. And they're interviewing the mother and the family of the first kid who died in the park, when he went off of this ride and hit his head and died. And that was the first real time they do that. And then there's also this point where, at that same point, that's really the first time you get the indication that, like, the guy who's running the park is kind of a sleazebag. Like, throughout the documentary, they kind of make no short, they kind of don't make it any less abundantly clear that he is not a good person, and he's a douche, and he's, like, he didn't handle anything properly. That's not, hidden throughout the entire thing. There's kind of contempt for the former owner of Action Park, who ended up dead. Not for any reason besides just, he died, but there's no hiding the contempt for this man that everyone has for him, because of how poorly run the park was. He was just making money hand over fist for it. And it kind of is, in a way, shocking that it's kind of handled in this way. So it doesn't feel right. And then it goes right back to, and the park was fine. Like, right after that, it's like, yeah, like 7 people died, but like, what are you gonna do? And it's like 7 people dying over 10 years is kind of disgusting. And people still went back there. It's like, and you keep doing this? Like, I just, like, and that was kind of a thing that kind of, for me at least, being like, why would you go there if you run this risk? It's like, I'm not getting on that ride. Like, I don't know. But granted, there's also someone who would refuse to go to Adventureland, because Adventureland didn't exactly seem safe either, and wouldn't like going on rides at carnivals either, because like we have some 16-year-old who we pulled up the street, offered him a bag of weed, and now he's operating our rides, and it's like, yeah, I don't really trust that kid to, make sure everything's up to the safety codes. But it's an interesting documentary. It's just, I feel like if it was longer, it could have gotten more into, if I were doing this documentary, I would have gone more into what kind of shady dealings the owner had, whose name I'm forgetting. I want to say his name was like Winslow or something like that. I want to know what shady dealings he had going on, because like he had a fake insurance company, he had this and like all the stuff. He was routinely, breaking the laws and being a bad tenant, just that way they would eventually sell him the land outright, so he wasn't renting it. And it's like, it kind of is meant to make him look like a business genius, but at the same time they throw the word embezzle in there, and what's it called, and laundering money, and it's like, it's kind of completely glossed over. Like, it's not really explored any further than he was definitely laundering money through this, and it's like, and we'll end it there. But I don't know. It's an interesting documentary, especially for people who are outside the area and have heard of Action Park but didn't know what it was. I just wish they went more into the owner and what was the owner, why was the owner doing this? What made him do the park? What made him, like where did it all go wrong? How did we get to this point? So we'll wrap up there for today. And we'll be back with another episode later this week. We got a few other cool things happening, and we will see where we go from there. Until then, have a great rest of your week.